experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.
Good evening everyone and welcome along to the opening round of our GT3 Season 9 Championship here on the Evolution Sim Racing YouTube channel for this 1 hour race event at the Daytona International Speedway here in the state of Florida, just 50 miles north of the city of Orlando, of course, notably home to the prestigious NASCAR Daytona 500 and the Rolex Daytona 24-hour. And tonight, the venue for ESR's opening championship round. And so we welcome you all back after a relatively short break, raring to get into tonight's action as we begin our new championship season. Some of our drivers met this time last week around Okayama for what was a very feisty and quite dramatic pre-season round to kick off the season, but here tonight we kick off the championship for the first point scoring occasion, and you'd like to think around a circuit of this nature, with this 1 hour event where qualifying will be ever so important, we should see normal service resumed in some way this evening then. 11 corners around tonight's 5.6 mile circuit in the road course layout, with the inclusion of the International Horseshoe and of course the famously reprofiled bus stop chicane. It will be a daring overtaking opportunity if you fancy it on the entry, but a pretty common area to prepare the car for the run down toward the first corner if you want to try and make a move going in to turn 1. So as the drivers put in their final preparation laps ahead of the first competitive session of the season, myself, Joseph Glass, and my brilliant partner in the box, Mr. Dara Thacker, welcome all of our viewers and drivers along for this one as the pressure in the garages begins to build a little bit. So Dara, it's just been 3 weeks since we were last inside the booth, but I bet you can't wait to get going. It looks like it's going to be ESR's strongest season to date.
Yeah, and the last time I slept in my own bed was the last time there was a competitive Thursday night GT3 race in ESR, so it's not been a long time, only a few weeks. And a lot of drivers, I think, ready to get going again. This championships, the championship fights reignited, new drivers to come into the fray as well. There's so many unknowns coming into the opening round of a season, and a track like Daytona, anything can happen. It's so difficult to break trains at a circuit where most of the time you're spent around here is with your foot to the floor and around part of the oval. So really exciting and interesting circuit, I think, to get us going. And even though it's not January, I feel like we're back home at Daytona where we belong.
Absolutely right then. So the drivers prepare themselves for 10 more weeks of championship action, starting here first at Daytona. As we've said, we've got a few things to look forward to and to run through before the drivers get underway. Then it's 5.5 minutes until the start of our new format of qualifying. So before then, let's take a look at the formalities of this championship season. So a big thank you to the sponsors. We always like to cover these guys before we get started in the broadcast, and so we welcome back the Kame team and the GP2 group for their continued support of the series. Trophy AI continue on the sponsorship for this championship season, so a big thanks to the three of those guys for their continued support, and a big welcome for the first time to the Sim Coach group, who are here offering their support both in the server, in the broadcast, and on the track, of course, because we have we have more than three actually. I think we've got 3 or 4 drivers as part of that team, so big welcome to Sim Coach. You guys can find all that information as you will in the Discord server. Be sure to get involved. Group sessions, solo sessions, track guides and setups, all available from Sim Coach then. So a quick look at the calendar, starting here at Daytona. 1 hour event to open the season isn't something that we're used to seeing, and it'll be frantic this time next week as we look ahead to Brands Hatch. The first mixed condition round of the season as the SR returns to Fuji and then back to Spa, which will lead us nicely to the halfway stage of the season around Virginia once again. That will take us nicely toward the end of July, with the season rounding off nicely at Silverstone toward the back end of August. The trophies on offer for these drivers, of course, usual on offer from Kame, the GT3 Elite, the Pro, the Premier and the Evo drivers all competing for these trophies. The top 5 in each of our categories will take one home in the Drivers' Championship, and then each driver as part of the top 5 teams in the Teams Championship will also take them home. The drivers already making their way around the circuit for qualifying, of course. The reduced time now, only 40 minutes instead of 45 minutes worth of practice. So we'll do a quick run through of the notable changes in each of our divisions and highlight a few drivers in both classes, and then we'll catch up with the drivers as they head around for qualifying. Good news is they have pretty much unlimited laps now in this new format. With the new tyre model, we've decided to extend it from 15 minutes up to 20 minutes and from 4 laps up to 10 laps. So we won't miss too much of the action as the drivers look to warm up their tyres. So looking at that list, it gets pretty competitive toward the front of the order. Andrew Dawson, notably one of the Sim Coach drivers, ironically, that 9k iRating, certainly something to watch out for. Yannis Aubert, a name that we've seen here several times before. Handover returning for his second season. Arthur Thurtle and Tobias Effie making their debuts as well alongside Benson. Then we have the 2 stalwarts of Tenobriga and Lucchese making their return. Watson was involved quite heavily this time last week as well. Langford making his debut as well alongside Joe Newman, Tom Perry and Ivan Tossenson, I believe that is. I can't quite see it on my display at the moment. Lewis Kenyon, John McLuhan back as well for the first time in a little while as well. Plenty of drivers there in the Elite Division, new and returning. It'll be interesting to see.
Newer names for this pro class to try and get their teeth into. Matt Hoyland, he's been along longer than anyone can remember. He's in this group as well, and there's Chris Jennings and Joshua Ness, the Axis Simsports Fire team, who are back with a vengeance again. DXT, the Kmart team, Joe Sparrow and James Hayworth, again, they're teaming up towards the back end of this group. They'll be looking to push towards the front by the time we get towards the end of the season. Liam Fraser, another driver who of course had his really quite high points over the course of last season. We'll see what he can do this season. Adam Wilson-Weir, of course, joining the series. Aidan Millwood as well. And then we look down to the likes of Marcel Breitenbach, of course, joining Jean, father-son duo, again going for the BBQ Red Racing team. And there's just a funny little name towards that bottom right-hand corner. And your eyes aren't mistaking you, even though he is up here in the commentary box. Joe Glass, by the time we get to next week, is going to be in the car, aren't you, Joe?
I am. I'm actually missing the first few rounds. I'll be back for the 5th round, so I'll be relying on my team to try and score some points in the Teams Championship while I'm away. That's almost why I'm not in the booth with you, Dara, because I have to miss quite a few rounds this season. So I'll be looking forward to getting back into the car. And speaking of which, let's ride on. Well, sorry, let's first go back to trackside and we can ride on board with this man, championship winner in the Elite Division this time last season, Mr. Czech Plug, has traded his Corvette for a Mercedes, this time still looking very nice in the Vulcan Motorsports colours, of course. Here he comes, making his way down toward the bus stop chicane, round turn 7, for what will be his second flying lap. No surprise that Mr. Andrew Dawson leads the way at the front of the field at the moment. It's a 43.793 for the Simcoach driver in the Porsche as well, which is an interesting choice. You'll see, Dara, nicely, for the first time in a very, very long time, we have arguably Porsche being the car of a limited choice in this championship, as Tonneson goes onto the front row alongside him, nearly there, 2/100ths of a second behind the provisional pole man.
I don't really think we're going to be seeing too many big gaps in this qualifying session, if I'm honest. By the time we get towards the end, yes, I know we've got some 7 tenths between first and fourth in the pro class. But again, you can see with Tim Perry jumping onto the provisional front row in the elite class, that 11 thousandths really is likely the margins that we are talking about. 11 corners, of course, are named. Realistically, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 braking zones, I should say, around this circuit. It's not a track where you can gain or lose a great deal of time over the course of one flying lap, so it's going to come down to very fine margins. And even we're talking about the lines around some of the banking, which, you know, can gain you 1/200ths of a second, and that is the difference between first and third in that elite class at the moment. So yeah, drivers having to be very tight on their lines, but also almost as wary as going in a straight line as they are in some of these corners, which seems counterintuitive for a GT style qualifying session, but that's just how it is at this circuit.
Yeah, I think the 2.8 seconds that we see in between the elite drivers at the moment will come down by the time we reach the end of this qualifying session. But of course, as we mentioned just a little bit earlier on, the new tyre model which came to iRacing just a fortnight ago is really, well, people are starting to just about get used to it at the moment, but those tyres come out of the blankets far colder than what they used to do. It takes a little bit longer to get them up to temperature. The drivers have to be careful on their out lap. Really, they have to be careful for the first 2 or 3 laps, maybe, depending on how aggressive they want to be in that warm-up phase. So I'm sure we'll see those times coming closer and closer together as the session goes on. Indus Vinchazevsky's from P19. He has improved, and that's got him all the way to the front row of the grid. Is Tech Plug going to displace some of those guys toward the front? Joe Newman in the Mustang gets himself into the top 5, and there's a new provisional pole man, Tim Perry, a 43.465, the time to beat at the moment. 2 debutants on the front row and 3 inside the top 5. So the debutants really putting on a show at the moment. That time from Andrew Dawson, the first flying lap time that he set, now 3.5 tenths away from that pole time. Improvements needed. Tech Plug doing okay inside the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, and these gaps are more like it, aren't they, really? The top 10 covered just over half of a second. Similar thing can be said in the pro class. Top 8 covered by 4 tenths there. Sam Darbyshire has gone to the top of the order in that elite class. And I think that with this new time model, we are starting to see this come into play, that these qualifying sessions are never really over till they're over. Drivers continue to improve throughout the session, and those early lap times, yes, they can give you a bit of confidence, give you something to work off of, but they're not going to be the be-all and end-all of your qualifying session, and those lap times are going to start to come down. Matt Hoyland with a 44 flat at the moment. A very impressive lap time. Would be good enough for P11 overall right now in his Mercedes car, so good news for him. But it means that he is a little ways off getting towards the front fringes of this order, and that's not really what the pro drivers are going to be looking for. They're just focusing on beating the drivers in their own class, despite being mixed in and around elite drivers.
So Ivan then Tonneson, one of our debutants in the McLaren, back into the pit lane. He will have time to come back out. Andrew Dawson has improved up into P3 then, and we ride on board as Tim Perry was started this lap at the front of the field. Sam Derbyshire in the Corvette has pipped him to it, but Mr. Perry, part of the Altitude 3M esports team, a new debuting team to our league series, alongside Arthur Thurtle and Adam Watson. Joe Newman, the 4th of that driver. Interestingly, all of them in the elite class, so similar to the likes of the RDSA team, and I believe also the Simcoach team, will now have another set of 2 or 3 teams, all of which competing in the elite division, of course battling over the same points. Sometimes it's an advantage to try and spread your drivers out amongst the divisions, especially if they're going to be competitive in their respective divisions, but it seems like we've got strength. We've gone from strength to strength. You remember, Dara, last season we were talking about how the Vulcan team and the RDSA team would become a little bit of a rivalry. Well, we might just have added Altitude and Sim Coach in there as well to make it a four-way battle, and that's only in the elite class.
Yeah, the more the better, isn't it, really, towards the top of the tree in that regard. We've got a couple of drivers off the road. That was Andrew Dawson, who's gone back to pit lane with 10 minutes to go in the session. 43.2 is his and the session's fastest time at the moment. Yannis Albert in a Lamborghini, mind you, jumps up into the top 8. First time we've seen a Lamborghini in quite some time. That's an interesting livery as well. First time we've seen a Lamborghini in quite some time in the GT3 series, at least in this top split. I noticed that Justin Alof's also in that car in the 192 P4, currently in the elite class, and James Hayworth in the pro as well. A little bit more, I think, of variation in terms of the cars. We're seeing a couple of Mustangs, less Porsches, a couple of Acuras, a couple of Mercedes. We didn't see many of them last season as well, and it is quite a wide split. Some series see pretty, a monotone mix of their choices, one or two cars dominating, but not here.
Yeah, things really changing up and down both of our grids. Dawson, Perry, Derbyshire mixing it up right at the front. Lucchese has got himself into the top 7. Tenessen, who was right at the front just a few minutes ago, now down in P8. He's going to have to come back out and get himself around again then. Ricardo Luis Pereira at the front of the Pro class. He got a promotion from the Premier Division last season after doing so well. I think he won the championship in the end, and at the moment he's starting his season very, very strongly. 17th in the order, just a handful of elite drivers in behind him, but P1 in class is the Phoenix Racing Green driver, joining a new team this time. Phoenix have definitely broadened their horizon. 3 teams on the grid for those drivers. We've got Phoenix Racing Green, Blue and Red, all with 3 drivers apiece, spread up and down both of our splits and all 4 of our classes, so keep your eyes on that team as the season goes on. He is ahead of David Hutchinson by just under 3/100ths of a second, and then Chris Jennings just inside a 10th of a second, the man who we're riding on board with now in that Porsche then. So it's an Acura, a Corvette and a Porsche. 2 Porsches and a Corvette lead the way in the elite standings, but drivers starting to shuffle themselves into a much better position now. Lucchese looked out of it at the start of this one. He's now on the second row of the grid ahead of his teammate Justin Eloff in that Lamborghini. Still plenty of times to come. Denobriga notably down there in P13. Let's see how he gets on. And looking down at Adam Watson as well, Dara, in that BMW, you'd expect the straight line speed of that machine to be doing him pretty well at the moment, and he had a very, very competitive session this time last week. Won in the end in the feature race, did Mr. Watson, so you'd like to think that he'll be able to find another 10th or so, but it's so tight then. The top 16 in the elite class separated by just over half a second. That's pretty crazy at the moment, I think, for the start of a championship.
Yeah, and we're seeing them move consistently. Lewis Kenyon now up into the top 5 in that Acura, fastest lap time from an Acura that we've seen so far tonight. In fact, we've got 4 manufacturers inside that top 5, and I think we've got 7 inside the top 9, just a couple of Porsches, and actually no, 3 Porsches. Everything else is its own thing, really. Sam Derbyshire has gone to the top of the tree. 43.205 is the fastest time so far, and it now means that the pro provisional pole time is only good enough for P17 in the elite class, just to show how tight it is at the top of the order. Lucchese then leapfrogs Kenyon back into the top 5. This is a session I don't think we're going to be able to call until probably the final minute or two, because drivers are coming back out onto the circuit are going to be going faster and faster again right towards the end of the session. It's almost impossible to really say who's going to be able to find the extra 10th at the moment.
Here comes Macaulay Watkins then, another debuting driver with SimCoach, actually in the pro class, so I was wrong. We do not have a full 4-man team there. Who was that just posted a time? It's Gerald Fourie, the number 11 in that BMW, goes 3rd fastest in the pro class. Watkins here in the Porsche could not improve on that occasion. Mikey Story in the Mustang crosses the line as well. He does not improve. 10th at the moment for him as well. Here comes Matt Hoyland as he crosses the line in that very, very elaborate livery that we posted this time last week in the Mercedes. Top 5 for Hoyland at the moment. Start of the session on top. He's got to look to improve. It's only a 10th and a half to pole. I'm sure Matt will be gunning for that in the next 5.5 minutes. Let's ride on board with him as he does so then through the international horseshoe. You can run very far wide and off the circuit as long as you keep it off the grass on the left-hand side, then flat out through this next corner, turn 4. It wouldn't have been flat out a few laps ago, but now that the car's up to temperature, nice and easily done. Drifting it out wide to the left-hand side, getting it tucked in nicely, using all of that curb on the right-hand side through turn 5. Pick your braking points somewhere in the middle of this exit road there, going into the left-hander, and now you've got to get your foot to the floor as fast but as effective as you can, not to let the rear of the car slide out, and then use the banking to your advantage. Some drivers like to keep it low, some like to exit high and then drop back into the base down toward the apron, picking out just one more braking zone on the lap. Then as the camber flattens out, you look for the boards on the right hand side. There's 3, 2, somewhere just before 1. Get yourself on the brake, take all the curb on the left and the right, get it slowed down, and then back on the power once again. It's going to be a nice run to the line for Matt Hoyland, shorten the distance by keeping it close to that apron on the left hand side. Then Matt Hoyland looking to improve. We'll see him coming up on the qualifying order at the bottom of the screen in just a moment. Then here we go. Hayden Miller hasn't improved on his lap. Eloff hasn't improved either. Hibmer, none of them are improving, and neither is Matt Hoyland. Across the line, doesn't set a faster lap time. He'll stay 6th for the time being.
Yeah, Adam Wilson, we're one of the only drivers finding time, jumping up to the top 11 now in that pro class. Plurg needs some lap time to find. He's 8 tenths down and finds about 3.5 of them to go P14. Vincent Denobrica, they set lap times pretty much exactly the same time to put themselves 6th and 10th respectively. Vincent is 2 tenths off of the pole time and is somehow down in P6. I don't think we could have said that last season. Ricardo Luis now has gone, well, even faster. 43.88 now the benchmark in the pro class. But again, 58 thousandths at the top of that tree. It is so close at the moment in these classes. Jun Gonzalez is 6th himself, 1.3 tenths off of the provisional pole time in 6th. It's incredible how tight this is.
Here comes Sean Brayton back then in that new look South African barbecue bread racing livery. The blue ribbon makes an appearance, which is a favourite of mine. So that's a very nice looking livery once again by the Brayton back family, and he crosses the line. Don't think he improved there. James Robinson steps up into P11 with a 44.137. Here comes Macaulay Watkins. We found him just a little bit earlier on, hasn't improved since then, down in P14. As he crosses the line, will he find an improvement? Langford and Handover improve in the elite class. The Anasol Bears session is over. 2.5 minutes to go then for those guys who were about to cross the line. They will get one more bite at the cherry. Remember, we do not have the typical format that you might find on television, where if you cross the line you can do a lap. No, once the clock strikes 0, no matter where you are on the circuit, that is session over. So these guys have to get across the line before the clock strikes 0. Justin Eloff for RDSA in that Lamborghini, herring through the first sector again, looking to improve. Only needs 26 one-thousandths of a second over Sam Derbyshire to take the first pole position of the season. Remember, 1 hour race tonight, so no reverse order for these guys to worry about. Qualifying crucial. Ricardo Luis Pereira going faster still, Dara, down there in the pro class.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about the clock, think about it hitting 0 now, because if you start your lap just now, you'll be able to get around one more time. If you're yet to start your lap, you're just finishing a lap, this will be your last timed run. And for Justin Aloff, this is it as he comes on towards the banking once again. Sam Derbyshire could be trying to go even faster at the top of the order in the elite standings. There's a purple sector in there. Can he go faster than the 43.2? I don't believe that he can, and will only go for a 43.39, so he's not good enough to get into the 43.1s or to extend that margin of 26 thousandths of a second. Justin Aloff sits in P2. It's not a big amount of time to find, but he's going to have to find it somewhere around the course of this lap to try and snatch pole position off of Derbyshire and get a Lamborghini on pole position. A Lamborghini that wasn't seen for the entirety of season number 8, back for season 9. Could it be the fastest car? Wide line. I think that's lap over, and indeed it is. It must have got an off track there, Justin Aloff. He'll have to go back to pit lane. Is anybody else able to challenge now?
His teammate Luke Lucchese coming through turn 4. I don't think it's going to be enough for Luke to make it to the end of the lap. The top 5, Derbyshire, Eloff, Dawson, Newman and Marius Hibmer, all in the pit lane then as it stands. Hayden Miller about to cross the line for Phoenix Racing Blue. Is that going to be enough for him? Handover and Aubert back in the pit lane. Up to P11 goes Hayden Miller. He'll be satisfied with that enough, I believe. Here's Tech Plurg, who comes around the final corner as well. What have I missed there, Dara? What's happened?
Matt Hoyland in the pro class. 1,000th of a second on pole.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Hoyland will be buzzing with that one. Gerald Fody is not going to finish his lap. He might actually, you know. He will. 6 seconds to go. Here's the checkered line now. Is it going to be anything to improve for the BMW driver? It looks not to be. And so with that then, Matt Hoyland takes pole position at the death by 1/1000th of a second. Crazy ending to qualifying there then. Sam Derbyshire will be on pole in the elite class.
Yeah, ridiculous ending to that qualifying session. That set us up well for the season, isn't it? 1,000th for Matt Hoyland over Ricardo Luis. Well, I mean, it obviously doesn't get much tighter than that, but incredible to see it come down to such fine margins. And we're talking centimetres, if even that, if not just millimetres over the course of a lap here at Daytona. Incredible to have that kind of gap. But interesting that we have got a bit of an old faithful name in Sam Derbyshire at the top of the order in the elite class to kick us off for the season.
Absolutely right then, in that Vulcan Motorsports gold livery. I think it's had a little tune up to the spec map potentially. That looks a little bit different to what we saw last season, at least from my eyes. But that is driven by Mr. Derbyshire this time and not Mr. Plurk. So we'll have to see if it's in the capable hands of Derbyshire this time around. So far, so good. And what did we say earlier, Dara, about the 4 teams that might compete in this championship then? We'll run through the order for the grid to begin with, and you'll see that it's Vulcan, followed by RDSA, followed by SimCoach, followed by Altitude 3M Esports. So 4 of our most competitive teams inside the top 4. And if I may just sprinkle in there, Mario Sidma to the Glasstec Racing team in P5. So that's pretty good for me, pretty good for the league as well, with some very, very strong teams lining up at the front of the field then. So let's run through it ahead of this 1-hour session tonight. Sam Derbyshire takes pole position, the first of the season. The first competitive session goes in favour of the Vulcan Motorsports team. Remember, no longer gold and silver, they're just one team this season. A 1:43.205 for the 166 machine. He'll share the front row of the grid alongside RDSA's Justin Eloff, the 182, within 3/100ths of a second of the pole man. Andy Dawson also well within a 10th of a second. The top 4 all within a 10th of a second around a lap like this. That's very impressive. So Dawson and Newman will start on row 2 ahead of Mario Sidma and Tim Perry, the second of our Altitude 3M Esports drivers. The RDSA stalwarts of Denobliga and Lucchese. So many times we've seen those guys starting on the front row of the grid. They'll have to settle for row 4 tonight, P7 and P8 for the 2 South Africans. Ignas Vinciszewski's and Lewis Kenyon will round up the top 10 ahead of Hayden Miller and Ivan Ternessen. For Beta Frost, it will be Harry Langford ahead of Janus Olberg down there in P14. Slightly out of position, I think, for Janus Olberg tonight. Then Daniel Handover and champion Tjek Plurg also out of position in P16. It's Josh Benson for Simcourse and Adam Watson, the top 18, before we arrive to some of our first Pro class drivers. It's Matt Hoyland who took pole position over Ricardo Luis Pereira in dramatic style there. DXT over Phoenix Racing. It's Chris Jennings ahead of David Hutchinson. It's Milton, Pugh, Furey and Gonzalo, the top 26. Phillips, Story, McLuhan, Breitenbach, Robinson and Thurtle will be next up. We have a little bit more time. It's Wilson Weir, King, Hewlett, Millward, Fraser, Watkins, Howarth and Dan Cross will be the top 40, and sadly for everyone else, we're not going to have time for that. We're about to start, Dara. I'll hand this one over to you to get the season underway.
Yeah, it's going to be a short run to the line. It's difficult to judge into turn 1. Such differing lines, but Sam Derbyshire is going to have to try and hold them all off. We are racing then for the start of a brand new season, and he's taking a very defensive line. Of course, we've seen so many drivers in the past few months try that really wide line to the outside, but no one really going for it. 3, 4, maybe even 5 wide as they fan out in the background. There's contact there towards the back of the field. Luke King getting caught up in all of it, and a couple of cars off the road. There's also Vinciszewski, who's into the wall already. The Vulcan Motorsports car, who of course, one of the favourites for the Teams Championship, already into the wall. We're not sure whether there was contact. We'll have to wait and find out on that one. Derbyshire, though, got away well. That's important for him. Same for Matt Hoyland, as we see more carnage towards the back of the field. This is getting all kinds of mess into the international horseshoe.
Yeah, a little bit crazy there at the start. Vinciszewski's poor guy can't catch a break. We said it last season. It was almost the note of last season that Vinciszewski would qualify well, and he just couldn't make it happen during the race. And again, he's failed to do that. It looks like there's been another little pile-up. Henry Langford And is that... well, I'm not quite sure who that is. Ivan Tunessen and Henry Langford, yes, caught up on the exit of turn 5 there then. So 6 drivers down at the start of this one. And can you believe it? Winchesevsky's Langford, Allbear and Tunessen down 34 plus positions each. That is a huge shake-up from guys who started right toward the front of the field. And the top 5 remain how it is. Derbyshire, Eloff, Dawson, Newman and Hidmer. Denobligate has got past Tim Perry at the start, and what a start it's been by Josh Benson. 9 places gained in class, 9 places overall. That's him up from the midfield all the way up into the top 8, and he's got Luke Lucchese for company in behind. About to finish and start on lap 2. There's Sam Derbyshire, got away clean, and he's holding on. Justin Eloff keeping him honest though.
Eloff not letting him get away too much in the early stages, and that gap very much closable and maybe surpassable in the opening corner. There's the wide line from Sam Derbyshire. Wasn't willing to go for it into turn 1 on lap 1. Knew that there would be an inside line move if he did attempt it, and so is defending for the time being. But Eloff just hanging around, waiting for his moment to be able to pounce. But sticking inside the slipstream here isn't a difficult feat. The difficulty to lead, though, I think it's fair to say, is that fuel save. We saw that quite a bit over the course of Season 8, where drivers would sit behind, sit in second and third, fuel save, give themselves more time and more options on the strategy, and maybe be able to make a couple of these moves on that strategy period. They will have to make a single pit stop over the course of this 60-minute race. When you make it really is important and can dictate where you finish in this race, and so a lot of drivers have to be very coy and very strategic about which decisions they're going to make, and I think we're already going to start to see that played out in the opening race of the season.
Yeah, lots still going on, of course. We're riding on with Hayden Miller at the moment in his pursuit of Lewis Kenyon ahead. This is trying to get themselves within touching distance of the top 10 in exchange there, as Hayden Miller does get the run down toward the bus stop chicane. He will be on the inside line as well. You'd think that this will be Hayden's corner by the time they reach the braking zone. Is the Acura going to commit around the outside? No, he does not, and he might have just exposed himself a little bit here to Adam Watson. Not only will that BMW be slightly stronger in a straight line, he might have got himself a nice little run then. Here's Matt Hoyland, 5 places gained from him at the start, and he's got a nice cushion of Mr. Plurg and Mr. Pugh in behind him, the 2 elite drivers, before we find Ricardo Luis Pereira in behind those ones. So Hoyland in a very good position at the moment, and he'll probably be quite pleased that he's got a good few quick drivers ahead of him. And as he said, Dara, he'll be nice in the slipstream, trying to save a little bit of fuel, and these drivers have got to be aware that with that mandatory pit stop, it's not all going to be done in the opening stages of this one. Strategy on play, which, and again, I said earlier in the broadcast, Dara, I don't think we've opened a championship with a 1-hour event to memory, to be honest, at all. So it's an interesting one to see how that will play out, because obviously those 30-minute races can be a little bit frantic, and that reverse 15 can sort of throw things up into the air a little bit. But with this one being much more of a strategic affair, we should see a good start to this championship where strategy can really play a key part.
Yeah, and I feel like drivers get
that's not very strategic.
Jennings now around and in an awful place on the circuit. He's going to have to try and get it righted, but with drivers coming through consistently, look at that, it's horrendous to try and get it back into the circuit, having to reverse to go again. That he has lost 20, 30, if not a couple of more positions down in 23rd in class now. James Robinson caught up in all of that, and going wide is Adam Wilson Weir, John Bright back on the inside line. It's all going on in the early stages. What I was going to say is that normally early on in the season you get that kind of frantic racing where drivers can't really get a gauge of where they are compared to their rivals. These 1-hour races really do set the stage, I think, for drivers to kind of look around them and work out who their greatest challenges are going to be over the course of the season. We're getting it in the opening race of the championship. So close into the bus stop they go, but as they all run through, 6 cars there you could throw a blanket over. Thankfully all of them are able to make no contact.
Yeah, very close there as James Robinson moved over on the front of that Porsche. I believe it's Adam Wilson Weir in behind him. All's well that ends well though, so he timed that one perfectly. It did look very close on the angle that we had there. Who's that in behind? Is that Luke King going side by side? I think he's got himself ahead of the Mercedes of Liam Fraser. Luke King, sadly for him, in a little bit of a pro sandwich at the moment. He won't even be able to see his nearest elite driver. There's a good 8 pro drivers in between him and the next elite driver, so he's making these overtakes, is Mr. King, but he's not gaining any points for them, so he's got a long 54 minutes ahead of him. But if he had a bit of a shaky qualifying, you'll know that perhaps his race pace could bring him back into this one. So it's not over yet, still plenty of time for it. And of course he's still scoring points while his teammates do quite well toward the front. Alex Fretwell has gained 16 places off the start. I believe Alex qualified right toward the back. I don't want to say he was dead last, although part of me remembers seeing that. So Fretwell has had a very good start to this one, currently P33 on the road in a 49 car field. So Alex making his way through nicely. He's about to dispatch Lewis Hunter of the Double H Racing team there. Nicely done by the Ferrari. He'll be on the inside line for the bus stop. That one should be said and done for the RLH driver.
Yeah, it should be a decent enough move and ability to try and keep himself ahead, but it's difficult always when you've got a two-seat gap in front of you to make sure that the car directly behind them that is nearly pushing you through parts of the circuit isn't able to fly through once again. Should get a good run through the bus stop chicane, and you can see the release off the corner looked good. A couple of tenths in hand, but Lewis Hunter with a very good run as well in that BMW may be able to have a go. Tim Perry's just at the fastest lap of the race in P7 of the elite class, just to show almost how slowly they're going at the front. They're all within about a tenth or two of a second, but the only driver in the 1 minute 43s at the moment. Hayden Miller's in there as well. He's P11. But just goes to show that that front train of cars are very close together. Doesn't look like they're going to be splitting up anytime soon. Fretwell will defend down into turn 1, but in behind it's going to get a bit messy.
Yeah, 2x2 for the drivers behind. Fretwell, did he just have a slap of oversteer there? He looks okay, but that BMW either got a great exit or it was a slight mistake by Alex. Then into the international horseshoe they go again. He's still under a little bit of pressure, and it looks like Lewis Hunter has got a good exit coming out of that one. He might be able to put a challenge in under braking on the entry to turn 5 if he gets this one right. Is Alex going to defend? Yes, he is. Makes it a little bit tricky for the BMW driver to get his car up the inside. Great battle even this far down the order. Now look at that, the top 7 in the class. That's right on board with Sam Derbyshire, our race leader. And let's take a look at what he's got going on behind him then. He's got a nice, well, he wouldn't call it nice, but we have a nice cluster of 7 or 8 cars all forming a nice train, and the air being punched by Derbyshire at the moment, and all of them benefiting from it. Not too close, so we shouldn't be seeing too many moves anytime soon, but these guys will slowly begin to bunch up, which will really spice things up toward the pit stop window. You can see Elof gaining and gaining and gaining as we head down toward turn 1. We haven't crossed the line, now we have, and it's not going to be long until we go into the first corner, and Elof takes the lead. Beautifully done around the outside, although Derbyshire wasn't really committed to keeping that one at the front of the order. It's now his turn to try and save a little bit of fuel. Could that be a masterful decision by Derbyshire at the moment, and could it have been a little bit premature, having just driven 9 minutes of this 1-hour race, for Elof to have already taken the lead? We'll have to see how that one unfolds.
I mean, I think, you would think that this race would be played a bit more like a Formula E race, where no one wants to actually take the lead and everyone wants to just sit behind, save, and wait towards the end of the race. Elof has just decided that he wants to have a go at the front. Whether Derbyshire is going to allow himself to retake the lead, or whether he's just going to sit and wait behind for the foreseeable, we will have to wait and see. If you're Andrew Dawson in this situation, an opportunity arises though, because if Derbyshire does back off and is clearly unwilling to make a move on Justin Elof, then Dawson has the ability to try and find a way through to get into P2, but also still have that slipstream and be able to save a little bit of fuel. So this is a really intriguing prospect now for the number 117. We'll see if he's able to capitalise off of it, but again, still very early stage in this race. 10 minutes have gone. We're looking at the pit window being well after the halfway point in this race. So yeah, a very long way to go. This race is likely going to stay relatively calm for the opening half an hour, 40 minutes, and then get a little bit more exciting towards the end because of the nature of the strategy battle. But this is a really intriguing way to watch the race, because there are moves. Lucchese just got through Josh Benson, and it's all about positioning and getting towards that pit stop window.
It is then. Let's see Matt Hoyland going the long way around Lewis Kenyon. He's got Tech Plug in the Mercedes giving him a little bit of a bump draft along the way. Hoyland rightly so, just letting those elite drivers do their thing as they cross the line. Now 6 laps completed, on to lap 7 of this one, and notably I brought up the gaps there to say that the top 16 in this race only 10 seconds away from the leader, so it's still, given all that's happened so far, the field nicely nicely spread, and there's been an incident toward the back because it's all kicking off. Who's that there? Someone is around. And that's John McLuhan who's been taken out there, I think. I was trying to get on board with somebody in behind to see if we could see that damage, and it looks as though a car has rejoined. Let's watch on board from the perspective of Mr. McLuhan for that one then. He comes round, it's already kicking off, and it's the slightest touch there on his rear, but at that speed, Darrett, it's pretty hard to control.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And for Jean, it's not what he needed. And that rear end's gone. Oh, hello. There's Joe Sparrow. There he is again. Feels like he's got less and less of his car on the actual car every time we go back to him. Front end gone, rear end gone. Rear right tyre gone as well, it seems, as that popped off. Awful start to the season for him. All manners of spins, all manners of contact. And the number 32 is completely out of contention in this race. Not what he would have wanted to kick off the brand new season. There it is. Wheel just popping off at the end just for fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was from Sparrow's. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think Sparrow's maybe lost it. Has he clipped the wall? And then from there, you're just a passenger. 1, 2, 3 cars have hit him in that one. Front end's gone, rear end's gone, and then McLuhan was the last one to make that damage. So Sparrow's season hasn't started the best. Neither has McLuhan's. That's plenty of drivers out the order at the moment. Eloff still leading Derbyshire, and Marius Hibmer, I believe, has got himself past. Has he got past Andrew Dawson? Yes, he has. So let's see if we can find what has happened there. Marius Hibmer got past Joe Newman and Andrew Dawson, all while that exchange was kicking off in the first corner. Let's ride on board with Marius and see how we got that one done.
Yeah, all that talk I made about Andrew Dawson being able to sit and watch. Look at that from Marius Himmer, 2 for the price of 1. Everyone seemingly saving in front of him. He went, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll go up the inside. And he just takes 2 of them completely unexpectedly, but proves that is a very wide line that some of these drivers take at turn number 1. And if you're willing to forego a tiny bit of fuel, you are going to be able to gain a lot of time. And in the end here, 2 positions to go from 5th to 3rd without really having to do too much.
Yeah, on the entry, it looks so committed that you'd almost expect him to go deep when he has to hit the apex, but instead, he got it nice and slowed down, so always in control of that machine was Marius in that instance, so cracking effort by him. He's caught Mr. Dawson and Mr. Newman by surprise a little bit there. That's him into the top 3, now only a second off the race leader, less than that at the moment, actually 8/10 off the race lead, so cracking move by Mr. Hibner there to get himself in a nice position then. So let's see what's happening. Tristan Dobriger moving up the back of Newman as well, so we could lose another position, could the Mustang driver, by the time we cross the line, and it could be at the mercy of Mr. Dawson as well. Let's see if Dobriger fancies something similar as we cross the line. This was the exact position that Marius found himself in last time. Dobriger a little bit more cautious on this occasion. He gets it tucked in nicely and stays in behind this one. Ahead at the front of this cluster of cars is the race leader then. So Dobriger in P6, still within touching distance, and even if we drop back down to Luke King, Tristan's teammate, even he is still in this battle. So all 8 of these guys have their eyes on the race lead. Adam Watson and Josh Benson in behind, a few seconds off the back of this. They're not really in this scrap at the moment. Lucchese trailing, but all drivers ahead still within, well, will at least fancy themselves to really be able to get some strong points in this one.
Yeah, still a lot of time, and these gaps aren't big. I mean, I can't remember the last time that we've been racing for 15 minutes and that we have the top 22 overall within 20 seconds on the grid. That's fantastic to see, and it means that we are seeing quite a competitive group of cars. Even 8.5 seconds between the top 15 is great to see, and for Matt Hoyland even better, because he's just attached himself to the back of the train of elite drivers as a pro driver, and is looking pretty good to at the moment pick up some incredible points, if not maybe a win, to kick off this season 9 championship for him. What happened to Adam Thurtle at the start? He was the driver we saw being spun around in the opening corner. 4 wide doesn't go, and he was the one that found out.
Yeah, and I wonder if we just ride on board, maybe he's going to be a little bit too far back to see exactly what happened. We'll see that Mercedes of Vinciszewski's. There he is in the barrier on the left hand side. Sadly, I don't think. Oh yes, I do have a little warning for that one. Let's see what happened to Vinciszewski's in all of this one as we appear through the grandstand. On the inside, he's got Simcoach to his right. Is that... oh, he just drops it of his own accord there. The cold tyres catching people out. Now, I must say, considering that, I forgot to mention the amount of, well, sorry, should I say the lack of temperature that this entire field will have had in their tyres. It was a relatively clean start, give or take a handful of drivers on lap 1. We've seen in the officials this week, and particularly last week when the patch came out, the GT3 starts were laughable at best. A lot of drivers dropping it on the formation lap, never mind when you start green flag racing going down into turn 1. And it's quite a tricky braking zone, this one, isn't it, Dara? Quite light on the brakes. The car's always pitched in at some point, and then it awfully tightens as you hit the apex going into turn 1. So a tricky place to go, and given the width of the track, it often sort of has these guys thinking that you can maybe push a 3-wide scenario if you want to, and then all of a sudden on the exit of the corner it tightens. So I think with all that in mind, it was quite a clean race start, especially given that Vinciszewski sadly dropped it of his own accord there. Nothing to report from him, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, to only have a couple of minor moments of contact in a field of near 50 at Daytona to kick off a season really is good, and shows that there are a lot of drivers who are going to be very hungry for these opening races, but also very cautious and very wary about how they go about things. That's John, who of course was in the wall not too long ago, going around the International Horseshoe on the opening lap. Not the easiest day for him, and a bad way to kick off his season, but again, minor bits of contact, nothing in terms of a big pile-up, was there?
Yeah, it was the MRC Mercedes. I'm not quite sure who that was, but stuck his nose up the inside there, going through the horseshoe. McLuhan, a passenger in that one, but then just the way that he steered his way out of that in reverse, he narrowly avoided another couple of cars on the exit and managed to just slide on straight through the middle of them. So in the end, quite a good piece of avoidance. Not like he's sure, I'm not too sure that he knew an awful lot about it in the moment, but he managed to avoid any further contact, which is good news there then. So we can see, just take a look at the elite standings at the moment. We've got the top 8, as we highlighted earlier, well within each other at the moment, and then following Josh Benson we have another cluster of cars down from Hayden Miller to Czech Plug in P14, also very close together. You can just about see them at the top of the picture. They've disappeared off screen now, but two nice battles forming here, and it's good to see all of the elite drivers more or less staying together. The gap sadly in the pro class a little bit bigger. Matt Hoyland running away with this one a little bit. Breitenbach and Hewlett will fancy their chances at the top 5. Everyone else though not really that close to a significant train forming at the moment. So let's see how things develop then. 40 minutes left to go. 20 have passed. 1/3 of the race complete. We won't be anywhere near the pit stop window, I would imagine, for a lot of these drivers, but also let's see how the manufacturers, should I say, get on with the fuel as well, because I'm sure a lot of these machines, when you have a circuit that is pretty much 100% full throttle, some of these cars will be guzzling a lot more fuel than others. So let's see if any particular model has to dive into the pit lane first.
Yeah, I think it's going to be almost a key, not just for this race, but maybe for the season as well, to keep an eye on in that regard, which cars are more susceptible to fuel issues, maybe not as good on the tyres. All of these different variables, they're not huge when you get to this standard. The general BOP is pretty standard across the board, I should say. But there are still those minor differences, and there's multiple reasons why drivers will choose one car over another. But there is clearly a wide, diverse range of opinions on what is the best car to have, and clearly drivers with their own different driving styles have gone one way or another. Macaulay Watkins has absolutely sent it up the inside of Liam Fraser, trying to pick off P11, and is going to get that move done very late send, but the Moonshiners Racing Club was clearly up too late in the day to wait for that one. Inside at the dog leg though, this could be the move made back, and Fraser back into the top 11, and he's fended off Macaulay Watkins for the time being.
Yeah, great display by the pair of them. Fraser took him into turn 1. He got the upper hand on the exit, returned the favour into 3, and the favour was then returned again through 4 and into 5. It looks like Fraser will carry on down the road for the time being. A good battle between those two drivers then. Look at this. Marius Hibmer is all of a sudden in the lead of the race, Dara, so we'll have to go back and see what happened there. Marius passed Eloff for the race lead, and he passed Derbyshire in the same breath. Has it been another turn 1 masterclass by Hibmer? Let's see how he did that. He was pushing him all the way along, 3 of them bump drafting each other. Let's ride on board from the cam. It's going to be the same thing again from Marius. A double move up the inside of the pair of them. Not so easy this time. Elof did look to fight that one back, but what a display it's been by Marius going into turn 1. Both occasions taking 2 cars out of the equation. That's one hell of a way to go from 5th to 1st in a matter of laps.
And I'm going to be honest, Joe, I'm impressed with how unbiased this commentary is, because obviously with Marius as part of the Class Tech team, these moves, I mean, they're incredible. 5th to 1st in effectively 2 corners worth of overtaking. Incredible from the Dane to make this work. And again, it worked a couple of laps ago. He was close enough to give it a go yet again. And he is showing that he has got the nous to try and make a couple of these more, you'd say, abstract moves stick. And he is into the lead of the race. And he is fighting with some guys who would be absolute, stick-ons for a championship aspiration. He's going to be loving this right now. The issue now would be that he may be losing out on some fuel saving. However, he's already run 20 minutes or so in this race behind. Is it enough to save enough fuel to go a little bit longer? The Lamborghini of any of the cars, though, is the big unknown for all of us, I think, up here.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. Just a quick word on Marius. He joined the team recently, and he's proven himself to be a very, very strong driver. Absolutely loves the sim racing. Takes part in many endurances, many leagues at the same time. Arguably, I think he would say himself, maybe a little few too many, but he's off now. He's got a nice break, and he's putting in the practice, and it's clearly paying dividends at the moment, because he leads the race, having started in 5th, as we said, making his way into 1st, and he's gapped them a little bit, coming across the start-finish line now. He's leaving the likes of Derbyshire, Elof, Denobriga and Dawson to do battle, because if we just jump on board with Tristan at the moment, we can see how close that pack is. Gained a little bit going into the first corner, albeit, but that's really sort of brought everyone back into play. The group was pretty close together as it was, but with that move being done at the front, that's just invited Denobriga to join on the back of this pack then. So it's an RDSA 3-4 at the moment with Lucchese in P8. We've got a sim car thrown in there. We've got an altitude 3M car thrown in there as well. Very, very competitive. The time continues to tick, and I'm sure for these drivers, it's absolutely flying by then. So Hoyland and Pereira, look at that actually. Pereira's now past Thomas Pugh in the elite class, so albeit 6 seconds between the two drivers, it is now a 1-2 on track in the pro class as well. So we'll keep our eyes down on that one. But I'm just waiting for more of these moves. Surely some of these guys, Dara, are going to be watching what Marius has done. They're probably going to try it themselves, surely.
Think, wouldn't you? I mean, it's clearly worked twice now, and for good reason. It's very, very smart to catch a couple of drivers napping at a corner where they go very wide indeed. If you can claim the inside line, it doesn't really matter how much speed you can carry through the first part of the corner by going that far wide. You're not going to be able to use it off the exit, because there's a car directly in the part of the track that you want to be placing your own car. So really smart driving from Marius Hidmer, doing an absolutely stellar job to get himself into the lead of this race. Himself, Derbyshire and Elof tried to get away from Denobriga and the rest, but it's just not really worked out, has it? Denobriga, yes, he's not within half a second, but he might as well be in about a lap or two, if not even less, as he's all of 6/10 back as they cross the line to start yet another lap here at Daytona. But with Justin and Tristan there for the RDSA team, the likelihood of them working together is high, but Justin's going for the move for P2. Sam Derbyshire's under pressure. No, it's not. It's Marius Hidmer's under pressure, because he's lost position to Sam Derbyshire. Oh, it's all going on at the front of the field again.
Yeah, a little bit of a wobble coming out of the horseshoe there by Hidmer. He must have lost that place into turn 1. We'll go back and see that replay in a short while after this battle settled down a little bit. Marius had to do well there to regroup on the exit of turn 2, to fend against that Lamborghini, knowing, of course, that he's got Tristan in behind him. So hopefully Justin can rest assured that his teammate won't be too aggressive against Elof in P3 at the moment, but he's got to try and get this one done. Let's see how the pace is in the slipstream coming out of the first couple of sectors then. Are we going to see Hidmer? No, Hidmer's not going to be able to gain on Sam Derbyshire in this occasion, and Elof staying where he is then. So let's go back and see what happened a little bit earlier on, just at the start of this lap. This will be Sam Derbyshire passing Marius Hidmer. Is he just going to return the favour? No, he's not this time. He's going to go nicely around the outside. Marius goes a little bit deep, and and Sam Derbyshire says thank you very much, and it was deep enough by Hidmer to allow Elof up the inside to look around the outside but he did defend that one nicely in the end. So it's definitely not set in stone what this result is going to give us. I think that much was a given, considering the overtakes that we've seen so far, and it might be about to change hands again as they cross the line.
They can't really decide who they want to lead the race right now. Sam Derbyshire, Hibmer, Alof, they've all had their turn at the front of the field now. They've dragged along Gnobrica, Dawson, Newman, Perry, Lucchese as well. There is that gap in the train between Lucchese and Hayden Miller, but it's the top 8 and then the next 6 at the moment on the circuit in terms of those trains. And I can't remember the last time I saw a race where we've been going nearly half an hour and we've got that many gaps underneath half of a second. Indicated on that timing tower, for those of you new to the series, with the red gaps. The yellow gaps mean that they're between half a second and a full second. And then, of course, when they get black, they have opened up to more than a second. So the more reds and yellows that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, the more exciting battles we have on the circuit. I mean, look at the cars bouncing their way through. It's almost like a formation lap. They're so close together.
Well, I just heard Ben Bennyworth screeching off there, and there he is, off the circuit, I believe. That is, yes, it is, just at the pit exit, turn 1. So we heard that. At the exit of turn 7 with the leaders, we heard Ben Bennyworth there screeching to a halt. Let's see if we can put the piece of the puzzle together. Then you'll see, maybe if we catch it at the right time, you might see the race leaders coming. There they are on the right hand side, and there goes the Porsche spinning on the exit of turn 1. A simple, quite mundane thing to be done. It would happen to anyone. On this occasion, sadly, it's happened to Mr. Ben Bennyworth then. I did want to highlight this man, if I can find him in the long list of 50 drivers. Where is he gone? Okay, the moment... Oh, there he is, Dara. He's in the pit lane. And that is this man, Mr. Kalle Leskinen, of course, exiting the pit lane now in what looks to be an unmarked grey metallic livery, which was quite a contrast from the pink Porsche, from the pink team that we saw from Mr. Leskinen last season. But this is our pro class champion from last season, of course. He had 5 race wins, inclusive of 8 podiums so far. Not doing too well for Mr. Leskinen. He has made a pit stop, but he is 21st in class. His stationary time, 28 seconds. I'm seeing some other stationary times closer to 21 seconds, so I wonder if there was a little bit of damage perhaps that Mr. Leskinen had to fix up, or has he just had to, well, maybe he's overflew the car a little bit. But Leskinen was pretty good in these 1 hour sessions. His qualifying pace was pretty strong as well. Notably wasn't the strongest in the wet conditions, but I think Leskinen will have had hopes, high hopes, of coming into this championship and performing quite well. Sadly for him, not going his way at the start of this one.
It's not, but I would like to mention on the topic of Kalle Leskinen that with this car, with it being very silvery, a little bit black as well, the astute viewer will notice in the bottom left Phoenix Racing green, and then the fact that there is a lack of that green on the car, which is disappointing really. I don't know, you could maybe splash a bit of green on the top, on the side, on the bonnet. We'll have to try and get a Kalle for this next week. Anywhere. It's very gunmetal, isn't it? Feels like it's just come off the factory. They've forgotten to put any paint on, but it means that he's almost in stealth mode around parts of this circuit because he blends in with the tarmac very well indeed. So maybe that was his hope. The issue is he's only P21, so he's kind of going stealth mode in the order as well.
Yeah, so I think we're starting to get a little bit more activity in the pit lane then. I'd say probably 5 or 6 drivers have been forced to go into the pit lane, and probably a similar amount, 5 or 6, are now coming into the pit lane to take that stop. We're 5 seconds away from halfway through this race. Daniel Handover sharing the circuit with a fellow McLaren, and that's a Dunch, and he comes back across the circuit and splits the difference between the pursuing cars and does very, very well to scoop that one back up to avoid the pit wall. Matt Hoyland gets himself through there nicely. Very, very, very dangerous move there by Handover. Miller, Benson, Plurg, Kenyon and Hoyland passed him in that one, but I think you might have been a little bit concerned there as the McLaren drifted back across the circuit that you were going to get wiped out if you are one of those 5 drivers that I've just listed. Thankfully for them though, all have survived, and sadly it's just Mr. Handover who's lost a little bit of race time there.
Yeah, and he will have to try and use the back of Matt Hoyland to get himself back into the fray. This is what happens. We emerge through the through the seating areas. Hayden Miller going around the outside, a little bit of oversteer, trying to keep it in there. That little bit of contact, sending the car well, not spinning off, but spearing off into the grass. And that Brabham Motorsports entry with Daniel Handover having to hand over a few spots and drop down to P14. But even though that gap is over a second to Lewis Kenyon, he's kind of been, that gap is being split in half somewhat by Matt Hoyland. So he's still very much in the train. He's just got a pro driver between himself and the rest of his, or the rest of the cars that he's racing himself.
Yeah, so quick thanks to everyone that we have watching in the chat. I'm seeing all your comments coming through, so keep those up. And a big thanks to those of you who've liked the stream already. For those of you that haven't, if you could leave us a like, that would be brilliant. It'll just help the stream get promoted a little bit more than it already does. And good evening to Mr. Paul Cowlishaw, who apologises that he can't attend the first couple of rounds, of course. Mr. Cowlishaw, Dara, I'm not sure if you heard any of the broadcast last week, but I went through all of the drivers who were with us, with ESR, in our very first inaugural race 2 years ago, which happened to be around Okayama, which was our pre-season track this time last week. And could you name, well, I'm kind of giving you the answer already, Mr. Paul Cowlishaw was the only driver who attended last week who was also there 2 years ago. Now, there were about 16 drivers who are still with ESR who were there in the first season, but Cowlishaw, the only man who was there for pre-season 1, who was there last week. So, very good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're enjoying your viewing at the moment. And it is a shame that you're not with us, but at least you were there last week, because you've tied us up nicely. 2-year anniversary, back at the same circuit for the first time since summer of 23. And can you believe it, Dara? We're already on to season 9.
I mean, it's only been 2 years. I feel like it's been more than that, if I'm honest. That's the more unbelievable stat for me. I mean, it makes sense in my head when I think about it, but that also feels like it's not been long enough. It feels like we've been around longer at ESR, but there's such a great community now around that, even though Paul is the only driver to have been at both of those events, we've seen the evolution, the drivers come into this series to the point where we have got this A split with myself and Joe commentating on, and then of course the B split with Paul Smith commentating also on YouTube with 120 drivers signed up. It's fantastic, really, to see the growth of what is such a fantastic championship. But it is also nice to see that kind of running thread, isn't it, throughout the evolution of the series, which is ironic, isn't it, really? Because I guess it's called Evolution Sim Racing, but there you go.
Absolutely right, Dara. I'm just wanting to check some audio levels as well while we're talking, so we will watch on with this battle. But yes, it has just been 2 years, and I think that probably feels like it's been a little bit longer because we churn out quite a lot of championships, of course. 3 months per season. We've had Monday nights, we've had Thursday nights, now we've got Sundays, of course, pretty much every Sunday filled with at least something. So I feel like when you're running two or three championships a week and they all come 1, 2, 3 months after the next, and with only a couple of weeks break in between them, it's no wonder that this is our 9th GT3 season. We had 2 or 3 seasons of GT4s and TCRs, and we're on what will be EGT and the Daniel Lee Porsche Cup. So already we're on to our 13th or our 14th championship in 2 years, and of course we've got the AGT season starting in just a few months after the closure of the European GT Championship. Reminder, that's back on Sunday evening. Portimao will be an interesting one for the new tyre model as well. But I'm going to just hand it over to you for a moment, Dara. I'll ride on with the leaders, and I'm just going to check a few things in the background here.
Right then, we'll see Sam Derbyshire trying to defend towards turn number 1. I'm not too sure he's going to be under too much pressure from iRacing, even though we have seen a couple of daring dives to the inside at turn number 1. Not this time by. They're all consistently lapping in those 44 flat 1-2s, in that kind of range, very low 44s that is. Even Adam Watson lapping at a 44.006 at the lead of that second train in the elite class. Bit of a defensive line thrown to the international horseshoe there from Sam Derbyshire. Vulcan Motorsports driver flying the flag somewhat, of course, after Nicholas Vincichevsky's put it into the wall in the opening couple of corners, but he is still firmly in the lead. First hitters, though, are coming into pit lane. Ricardo Louise from towards the front of that pro class, and David Hutchison are down pit lane, and Is that going to start a chain reaction? We'll have to wait and see. Still 25 minutes to go. We'll see how much further drivers can go. Of course, we've seen drivers go towards that 15-minute mark in Season 8. However, this is a circuit that I think it's fair to say, Joe, will pump out more fuel than others.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Everything is good, thankfully, so I think we're all good. If anything does sound a bit odd in the chat, if you can let us know. I just noticed there's a few little blips, but I think it was just a temporary thing. So let us know. No one said anything yet, so I'll take that as a good sign then. And you're totally right, Dara. I think it will be a different dynamic. This kind of track is very, very unique, of course. It will be the only style of circuit that will visit this one time, this championship season. So let's see how things get on. And these three leaders, Derbyshire, Hibmer and Elof, as we've said, have both taken their own turns to run at the front and be the one punching that air for the rest of the cars to drive through. So I wonder who's going to blink first. I think Derbyshire has probably, there we go, he did it just before it came out. Derbyshire has probably led the more of anyone, let's say, the most laps of anyone, and so therefore you'd think that he's probably used the most fuel. Watson, Newman and Plurg join him in the pit lane then, as Hibmer, Dawson, Denobriga and Elof continue on for one more lap. This will be their 22nd lap with 23 minutes to go then. So Hibmer inherits the race lead ahead of Elof and Denobriga. Let's see where Mr. Derbyshire comes out when these guys eventually come into the pit lane.
Yeah, it really is quite a lot of cars now down on pit lane. You think with every passing lap that we see, there's going to be more drivers able to spend less and less time in the pit lane to have to put less fuel into the car. So we'll have to wait and see if that's going to affect the likes of Sam Derbyshire, who is coming out of the pit lane now, but still quite some way down the field. He's not quite 200ths behind Yannis Hubert. That gap's more like that 4-second margin. Again, a lot of pitts in the Pro Class. Macaulay Watkins really the only driver able to stay out. Ricardo Louise, is he able to overtake Matt Hoyland? The answer is a firm no, and Hoyland's going to come back out in that net race lead. That's the word I'm looking for. Net race lead for him. He's actually just out behind Plurg, who of course is the reigning champion. Hasn't had the ideal start to his championship, has he?
So here comes Sam Derbyshire then, making his way through turn 6. Now he'll have a little bit left to go, about halfway through the lap at this stage then, and we'll see Hibmer and Elof making their way around the final portion. Are they going to dive into the pit lane? Are they going to go one more time? In comes Marius then, let's see. In comes Elof, who might look to make a little move going into the pit lane. I think he has. We're going to stick and ride on board with this, because Elof got alongside Hibmer on the pit entry there. He's just slightly ahead is the Acura, who's taken the more realistic, should we say, entry into the pit lane, whereas Elof has just driven straight through the pit, which you're more than entitled to do. No contact, no collision in the iRacing pit lane there. I think that was Denobriga who maybe just overshot his mark then. I'm watching on. Sam Derbyshire is coming round the final bend. He will be flattening himself off just about now as he looks to cross the line. Out goes Hibmer, and Elof has just dropped off a little bit, and I think Andrew Dawson has pipped a lot of them in this exchange then. Here comes Sam Derbyshire around the first corner. You can see all of his competitors on the other side of that wall. He's frantically sawing at the steering wheel, trying to get ahead. I think he will be ahead, because Marius Hibmer will not be able to get that speed up in time to challenge into the first corner, but that is a little bit too close for comfort, I think, for a lot of these guys. Well done, Andrew Dawson. He's got himself up 2 positions ahead of Denobriga and Justin Elof in that pit exchange. The battle continues. It's a slightly different order now, but Hibmer will fancy this one, and he's got to be careful though on those cold tyres. Sam Derbyshire has had a little bit longer to get them warmed up.
Yeah, and it means that Hibmer's going to have to sit and wait in the slipstream while he also gets those tyres up to temperature. But Derbyshire into the race lead, not really much has changed, has it, over the course of that pit stop period? The front of the field in the elite class and even in the pro class, with Matt Hoyland still with that 9-second advantage over Ricardo Louise, who himself has got a 7-second gap back to David Richardson. Very lonely race for him in the number 25, Ricardo Louise. But for Derbyshire, it's not been lonely at all. Hibmer's kept him very honest indeed, and they are now both going to be racing to the end. I think no real games for track position unless we're thinking about the slipstream onto the final lap. But Andrew Dawson up here as well, Joe Newman trying to mix it in with this group of cars too. This is going to be a really quite exciting, I think, last 20 minutes of this race, and we're not going to be able to call it until we get to the line.
Yeah, it looked very, very close there by Hibmer on the back of the Corvette. Just backed out nicely. You don't want to follow a car too closely through there. You've either got to be close enough to make a move, although look at this, the slipstream that's been picked up is almost too much by Hibma. Is he learning though, perhaps, from that first phase of the race? Is he just going to sit in behind the Corvette? I think he will. Look at that. The moves that we've seen Marius make were very, very, well, not aggressive is not the right word, but very advanced thinking, weren't they? Get straight on with it, get the move done. Now, though, is he perhaps trying to conserve a little bit more fuel to push toward the end of the race? He shut me up very quickly because he's gone straight up the inside into the horseshoe. He is trying to challenge for that race lead, but it might be a slight switch of thinking here for the Dane. He's got to be careful as well because he hasn't had to challenge or defend against Dawson so far this race. For the most part, it's been Denobriga and Elof doing that challenging, but it's now Dawson who will fancy his chances at a race victory. It's GlassTech leading Vulcan, leading SimCoach and RDSA. Very, very frantic battle. Denobriga dropped off the back of this one a little bit. Newman in that Mustang has taken that place inside the top 5. Wasn't the best pit stop, I don't think, for Mr. Denobriga.
No, not at all. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to keep himself in contention here as we get towards the end of this race. Of course, it's difficult to gain any time when you're outside of this train of cars. That's kind of the difficulties he's going to have to overcome in the final 18 minutes of this race. We've got a way of a difficulty for Joe Sparrow. Of course, Joe Sparrow was the driver who had about 5 pieces of his car missing. He's avoided a car spinning around and decided that he would almost do a charitable spin. Oh, the 55 there. Oh, a couple of cars taking flight over that curb. I'll have to see that one again from an onboard. Joe Sparrow missing the car and, yeah, spinning in sympathy. Let's just see that again really quickly on the outside. There's a couple of cars coming through. There's the first jumping over. And then the RDSA car. Whoa, big there.
Who was that? Was that Luke Casey perhaps there in that car?
I think it could
We
be,
can try and watch it
The
if it was
Porsche.
Luke Casey. No, it wouldn't have
No,
been.
it's not.
Who was the other RDSA driver? Think about this one.
Luke
We should
King.
know it. Luke King. There it is. Boom. Got that at the same time. On the gyro, a little bunny. Whoa.
Oh.
Little bunny hop there. And I think that was legit. I was wondering if that was just a connection thing. But I think that is Luke King who's done a little, what do you call them? Well, not really popping a wheelie, but it's a skateboarding reference, but I don't know well enough to make that claim. Anyway, we're right on board with the leader because Andrew Dawson has taken the lead of the race. We've missed it again. We'll catch up when things settle down, but we have yet another race leader. This time, Derbyshire has lost out to Hibma, not only to Dawson, but it's gone from Dawson in third, Derbyshire in first. Hibma stayed where he was, but first and third have exchanged positions. So we'll have to see how that unfolded. And that is a new race leader. Then it's coming toward crunch time. The final portion of this race, then 16.5 minutes to go. This is when you want to start thinking about your positioning to try and be the one leading the race. Not too early, obviously, but it's really starting to get to that point where who will be in the lead will be the guy to win the race then. So we'll see how that happened in just a moment, but for the time being, it's advantage to Mr. Dawson on his debut.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this race has kind of played out over the course of the opening 45 minutes or so. Dawson, Hibma, Derbyshire, Elof all leading the race at some stage, all in the top 4. Newman's going to have to do a bit of work to make it 5 drivers to have had that accolade. More bump drafting going on down the main straight, with Hibma now pushing Dawson towards turn 1. Could Derbyshire try something similar to what we've seen of Hibma in the earlier stages of this race? Not quite. Hibma, though, looking for the inside line. Derbyshire is going to take advantage from the opening outside line. No moves are going to be made in the end, but clearly differing lines. Drivers always trying to avoid tripping over each other because they're running so close together at the moment. Yeah,
really, really aggressive from the 3 of these, really pushing to try and take this victory. They'll all feel comfortable enough that they've still got time to make it happen. Side by side goes Newman and Elof. Elof's nice, going a little bit worse here. He's been right toward the front since the start of the race, and now he's having to look in his mirrors and defend to try and stay inside the top 4. And all of a sudden, Luke Lucchese is back in this one. Something's happened to Denobriga because he was right in this pack, and now he's 4 seconds back. He's barely going to make the camera. No, he hasn't even made the camera before we panned away, so we'll have to try and figure out what's happened to Denobriga then. But let's go back and see what happened just a little bit earlier on. I had it on my screen just there and I've lost it already. Here it is. Marius Hibma. First of all, Marius Hibma passing Sam Derbyshire for the lead of the race through turn 4. Nicely done around the outside, getting the inside line going into turn 5. A little bit of door banging there And then does Dawson manage to get up the inside again, perhaps? Does he lunge to the inside here, going into turn 6? No, he doesn't. He stays put. Potentially, it's going to be a good exit here for Dawson to then get himself in on the bus stop, into the bus stop chicane. Let's ride on board a little bit longer here, Dara, and see if we find it in this move.
Let's see. I mean, Andrew Dawson just being the one to be watchful in the last few minutes, but still with a little bit of work to do to get this one home into the bus stop. Of course, nothing was going to end up happening. Always a difficult corner to get right at the bus stop chicane, especially when you've got pressure. All 4 of these drivers, though, still very much in contention as we run our way back to the main straight. And Dawson looking for it once again. They come towards turn 1. You can just about see the game of all of the drivers. The double slipstream for Dawson, the singular slipstream for the drivers just up in front. And even Elof in the background, just lurking, waiting to make that move and trying to make it work. Derbyshire having to do a bit of bump drafting. It all gets quite messy. There's the move, inside line, diving it late, gets through on 1. Oh, and there's the second one because of the deep move, or the deep line from Hibma. And that's how Dawson's gone from 3rd to 1st. It's the second time we've seen a driver take 2 positions for the lead in this race.
Yeah, very good. I'm glad that we held on to that one. It was a little bit longer than we thought, but it was good to see how that unfolded over the best part, 75% of the lap. We rode on with for the first time, going through turn 4, and it lasted all the way through into turn 1 then. So positions are as we left them. Dawson leading Hibma, leading Derbyshire. Elof and Newman not out of this one yet. Lucchese just dropping back slightly off the back of this one. And now 12.5 minutes to go. Let's see what's going on in the Pro class while this is all kicking off. Hoyland has had a great race so far, Dara. He obviously talked last season plenty about how it was a championship to forget for him, but at the moment he's putting in the sort of kind of Leskinen pace that we saw last season. 12, nearly 13 seconds clear of his nearest rival. Going very well indeed. Yannis Olber in this extremely questionable livery again. Dara, I would implore you to go and watch the broadcast in par from last week, and you'll see the livery that Yannis turned up with. Penguin inspired for the Penguin Racing Endeavours team, but it was very, very questionable last week. It's changed since, slightly brought the colours down a little bit, believe it or not, because that's still a very colourful car. But Penguin's the sponsor of Yannis's livery this season.
Yeah, I don't. To be honest, Yannis's liveries at this point aren't going to surprise me.
That's a good point.
Part of the Minecraft racing team on a Sunday night in the European GT Championship. It's a dirt livery, quite literally a dirt livery, and there's no disrespect to that. That is literally what it is.
It's just brown.
Yeah, well, it's brown with it's a little bit of grass on the top, a little bit of grass, but I think it is meant to be a dirt block. That is very Penguin themed. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if next season we're going to get some of the other animals from Madagascar, maybe for King Julian style livery. But I'm not
Don't
too
give
sure.
him ideas, Dara. Don't give him any ideas.
He always provides, though, doesn't he? You can never be too safe with Yannis's livery.
No, you can't. You can't. I'm trying to remember who his original team was, because Yannis's, let's say, story arc throughout his ESR campaign has been quite strange. I think he arrived in Season 2 or Season 3. He was in his own team, competing heavily against RDSA, and then he made the transfer of all transfers during Season 4, maybe 5, where he joined forces with the RDSA team in their pursuit of the team's championship. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I wouldn't put it past them to have won that championship with Lucchese, with Denobligate and Aubert. And then since then, he sort of took a step back from iRacing in a way. He drove for the Glass Tech Dexterous team in various other championships at some point over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, and now he just seems to have gone full meme mode. Yannis has always been a little bit of a memester, but now he's gone full meme mode by, as he said, the Minecraft Racing Dirt Block livery, the Penguin Racing Endeavours, and I just wonder, what could Yannis go to next? I guess that's going to almost become a bit of a theme with Yannis's liveries and Yannis's team names from now on. Doesn't really take himself too seriously. Doesn't have to, of course. We are just sim racing at the end of the day. Some guys, like this one for example, like to make a very nice professional looking livery in a very nice team name. And Yannis, however, doesn't think that way anymore. He just picks an animal and goes from there.
You know, Craig Hewlett, everyone knows he's British. There's a couple of other drivers, a couple of American drivers who make sure that you know that they're American with their liveries. Yanis just wants you to know that he would love a trip to the zoo to see the penguins or any other animal, clearly, that's on display, in the polar section at least. But yeah, wide variety of liveries. There you go, Marius letting everybody know he's from Denmark. You know, everybody has their own little flair, and we're clearly seeing that in the early stages of the season. And the flair from Hidmer has been good moves to the inside at turn number 1. There's another one, and he's made it work. Bit of a flash of the lights, not really too sure why. Looks perfectly clean, perfectly tidy. And there was a bit of a send back to the inside of the international horseshoe, and Hidmer's going to do it all over. Oh, he's not going to do it all over again. This is still the replay. But down to turn 1, Dawson went wide. Hidmer found the inside line. Hidmer's in the lead for a moment. So, yeah, I can't see too much wrong with that one, Joe.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, maybe he thinks that he shouldn't have cut across him there. Maybe it was just a little bit of a distraction technique by Dawson. Thought about going to the inside. Did, in fact, go up the inside, just about avoiding contact. Very, very narrow margins between those two drivers. But another exchange at the front, and it will now be under pressure. Look at this, Sam Derbyshire up the inside through turn 4. These three are exchanging positions like it's running out of fashion, almost like Dara. They're running out of time, which, can you believe it? They are now, only 8 minutes to go. Marius back in the lead. Dawson has done well to defend that one away from Sam Derbyshire. He was in a very strong position there. Let's not count out the 3 in behind. Newman, Eloff and Lucchese still in this fight as well. We've taken a momentary break to have a nice relaxed conversation about various zoo animals, and now we're back watching the action at the front of the order.
Yeah, that's what happens in a broadcast when we're waiting for the end of the race, waiting for people to make moves. You just kind of get delirious, don't you? But here we are. Is there going to be a move to the inside for Derbyshire? There very well could be. He's shaping for it. He's not really going to send it down into the Le Mans chicane, or the bus-up chicane, whatever you want to call it. In the end, no, he's not. Derbyshire will stay in P3. And will continue to sit and continue to wait. We are lapping at, give or take, that 100-second mark, and 7 minutes to go gives you 420 seconds in a race, which means we look like we could be having 5 more laps in this one. By the time we cross the line, we'll be able to complete 4 full laps and squeeze in a 5th. Ricardo Luis Pereira fighting this one. It was a pro driver, an elite driver coming through. So not too much of a battle to be put up there, but 5 to go then at the front of the field. They're not going to cross the line with much time. We're talking about 10 seconds in change, but it will be enough to get a 5th lap in. And Adam Watson wouldn't mind getting the laps in. He looks like he's moving forward at the moment towards a possible P8 in this race.
Yeah, great move by Watson. Looked a little bit skittish on the brakes there. Oh, a little bit of contact by the Porsche, it seems, going into the horseshoe. But yeah, great move by Watson. Looked a little bit, like I said, a little bit skittish on the brakes. I think he was just maybe sawing at the steering wheel a little bit, trying to keep that one stable. Let's just watch that one again from the perspective of Mr. Watson, and we'll see how that felt for him. Let's listen as he goes into the braking zone. Yeah, okay, it was okay actually. It wasn't so bad at all, but just had to adjust the steering, try and get the brakes to stay with him as he made that move. Off the circuit goes the McLaren. I'm not sure who that is, but he's allowed a handful of drivers through there on the way out of the first sector through turn 6 and 7, and then it was Lewis Kenyon, the last man to stay on to that one. It would have been a blue flag actually down there, so getting out the way nicely, which is what we like to see. And then Ricardo Luis Pereira, where we saw him a little bit earlier, right on the back of Thomas Pugh. A bit of pride in this one more than anything else. No points on offer for this move, but the Portuguese male might be fancying his chances here around the outside going into the first corner. Let's see if Thomas Pugh decides to defend this one, or just lets him go on through. Never mind.
Yeah, the bus stop, I'll be honest, really, I'm not too sure why Pereira's fought it in that way, because Adam Watson comes down pit lane. That's for only 5 minutes left in this race now. Not what really he needed to happen. But yeah, I don't really know why Ricardo Luis is really fighting that one. He's got a 5-second gap back to David Hutcherson. Yes, he's fighting a car for overall position, but at the same time, surely you'd want to protect your pro race position more than getting an extra spot in the overall order, which will gain you no more points. But anyway, still in P2, still got a 3-second gap. He lost 2 seconds on that lap. Oh no, big spin for Derbyshire. He's in the wall. That's him out of contention, isn't it?
Yeah, that could have been very, very bad, because Andrew Dawson was a passenger in that one. Elof has been passed by Newman, so all of a sudden he is in a podium position with just under 5 minutes to go. That's exactly what we were talking about. All of those guys will have fancied having themselves in a great place. That leaves it between a straight shot between the 193 and Andrew Dawson, the 117, trying to go for the race lead. Sadly for Marius, he's in the wrong position. I think if you're going to decide it between a two-car battle, then you'd probably rather be in P2 going across the line into the final couple of laps. If there was a few more of them involved, Marius might think, well, they might catch up with each other, maybe go for moves. But at the moment, it looks like it's now going to be a two-horse race, and unless Dawson sits behind, there might not be an awful lot that Marius can do to defend this one, because Dawson is an experienced driver. He'll know how to make it impossible for Marius to take the lead back again, and the distraction tactics are certainly going to start now.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Sam Derbyshire to drop down the order. There was clear contact in the road. Oh, there's more actually. Joe Newman, we'll have to go back to that in a second. Joe Newman, there was more contact into turn number 1. Lucchese all of a sudden in the top 3. Newman seems to be hitting absolutely everybody he sees at the moment. Lucchese and Alof trying to find their way through. The Mustang is just a rolling roadblock, well, I don't really know, a snowplow at the moment. A couple of cars languishing in the wake, but Lucchese and Alof not able to get through. Couple of moments I think we're going to have to go back and look at, Joe. Sorry for cutting into the replay.
No, I didn't want to miss that then. Here's the incident with Sam Derbyshire then. It will be the Mustang again under brakes. He's just completely overstepped the mark, and they did make contact. Dawson was hit there by that flying Corvette. Let's try it on board from the onboard camera, and you can see there contact. So who was it? Sorry, Dawson. Very lucky there not to get spun round, and he has already passed the race leader then. So 2.5 minutes to go. Still going to be another couple of laps. Let's see how this one was done. Marius may well go for it into turn 1 again. This is into the turn 5 then. Is Marius going to make a mistake? Yes, he is. Marius has snagged the brake. He's locked up slightly, gone a little bit too deep, and that has allowed Dawson through in an unorthodox position. But will that turn out to be an actual benefit for Hibmer? If you can stay in the slipstream, make one move count toward the end of this race, and maybe that could see him across the line.
He's going to retake the lead already. He's going to go for it, it seems. He's not waiting around. I would have thought he waited for the last lap, but he's going to go for it. There's 2 laps to go in this race, and Hibmer inherits the race lead after losing it just half a lap ago. I don't know, Joe, whether we can go back and look at that moment between Newman and Lucchese into turn 1, or it may even have been Alof, because it was such a weird moment. You could just see the Mustang going wide into the corner with a car around its outside, which isn't generally what you'd see. And then there was that more contact. I think that's how Lucchese got ahead in the first place. The contact was with Justin Alof. We'll see it now.
I don't know if it's this one. I don't know.
We'll see. Lucchese, yeah, there we go. He's behind it. They almost lock wheels there on the inside. Both go wide. Lucchese gets 1 and nearly gets 2. Really weird moment there.
Yeah, let's see then. So it's Newman and Elof ahead. The Mustang goes deep, forces them both off the circuit, and then he doesn't want to give up that position, does Newman. Comes back and defends immediately. More contact. 2 RDSA cars feeling the paintwork of that Mustang in a matter of meters there, and then he does get himself back in front and defends the lead. Now, I do not want to miss what's going on at the front of this race. That's right on board with Dawson. See how the slipstream goes. Rightly said, Dara. 1 lap after this one. So we'll have to see how things go. It's looking like Dawson might get a brilliant exit here on Hibmer, and he will be in the slipstream. This is going to get feisty between these 2 drivers. Both of them have been well within the fight since the start of the race, but Dawson really is the newest one into it. It's been Derbyshire and Elof alongside Marius who've been right at the front for the majority of this race, and Dawson could be about to come along and ruin the party here. We cross the line then onto the final lap of this race, and it's over to Dawson to over to Hibmer to defend, and Dawson's gone very cautiously into turn 1, looking to get a great exit. If you were the driver here, Dara, when do you think you'd be going for a move?
Well, my answer's changed in the last minute since you've been talking, because I was going to say that to be in Dawson's position is fantastic. You know, he got the run. It looked like he was going to be able to gain another couple of tenths and bump draft his way towards turn 1 and then actually go for the move on the final lap. But he didn't catch in the way that I expected him to. I think he's going to have to try and make this move maybe into turn 6, and I think maybe Hibma knows that. A couple of defensive lines, but he's not going to get through here in towards the western horseshoe. What about down into onto the banking? Let's see, there's no move there. He's far too far back. He's just going to have to hope that he has enough slipstream to power him towards the line here. Run onto the banking. He's got a couple of tenths to find. He needs to ensure that that line through the final chicane at the bus stop is tight and that he doesn't lose any time at all. If he loses any momentum in comparison to Marius Hibma, this race is over. It's going to come down to less than a tenth of a second regardless, though.
Let's see what happens then. We saw earlier on that's exactly what Dawson tried to do. He's not going to be close enough to make that move now, which is probably for the best, but he is going to look for the launch. Pressure on Hibma to get the power down. Dawson, has he got it in him? Hibma is going to have to just stay off the apron ever so slightly, but not enough to allow Dawson to take that inside line. He's got to make him go the long way around to extend the distance to the line. It's going to be close, Dara, but I think Hibma might have this one in the bag.
Yeah, let's see. Andrew Dawson trying to catch. He is gaining. He's just not going to be enough, though. Hibma, by less than a tenth of a second, or about a tenth of a second, has taken the opening race win of the season. 1,000th between the lap times on the final lap as well. Nothing really to separate them after an hour's worth of real intense racing action. And you'd have to put that down to Marius Hibma's ability to make moves towards the start. 5th to 3rd, 3rd to 1st in the space of 2 moves, both at turn 1, both double overtakes. Fantastic to see. And in the pro class as well, Matt Hoyland, much easier time for him than in the elite class. 19, nearly 20-second lead in the opening race of the season.
Yeah, what a finish and what a way to do it by the Acura driver, the 193, starting the season off the way that he will have liked it. I don't think he would have thought that possible coming into qualifying tonight. He only settled on the Acura a couple days ago. Here's Hoyland then with a couple of burnouts, maybe going to try and turn that one into a donut eventually. His season has started exactly how last season did not. Congrats to Hoyland, much easier affair, as he said, Dara, in the pro class than what Hibma had in the elite class. But yeah, great moves by Marius. Hopefully he joins us in the booth, but I'd love to speak really to any of those top drivers. And bad news for Sam Derbyshire. Look at that, P13 in the end. Penny for his thoughts at the moment at the end of that one. Was right toward the sharp end of the stick for literally 95% of that race, and then it all came undone in the final few laps then. Cracking race between them all, but hats off to Dawson, Newman, Hibma and Eloff for being there the entire race. Nobriga and Lucchese have done well to score strong points. It's actually a 4-5-6 for RDSA in the end, but commiserations to Derbyshire, who's dropped right down the order. Championship leader there as well, Tjek Plurg from last season. Best he can do is P12.
Yeah, and just final couple of drivers coming across the line, but really intense, fantastic opening race of the season. You know, strategy playing coming into effect, a couple of mistakes from drivers, contact, good moves, kind of had everything over the course of the hour. And to have the win split by, some of the barest of margins that we've seen in ESR history, really sets us up very well indeed for the start of what should hopefully be a really cracking 10-race season, or 10-round season, I should say.
Very good then. So what a race that was, and I don't think I've ever seen the lead of the race change hands so much in an ESR event before. So cracking effort by all of the drivers then, and we can now bring you through the race results from our 1 hour feature tonight. Starting first as always with the elite division. The 193 Dane driver Marius Hibma leads the way across the line. It was just over a tenth of a second ahead of Andrew Dawson in the end. So congratulations to Marius starting his campaign off with a maximum points there. 100 points on the board for him and the GlassTech Racing team. Andrew Dawson in P2 for SimCoach. A good start for them, and actually it's a 1-2-3-4 between the teams that we noted down at the start of this one. Joe Newman will round out the podium. He was always there or thereabouts, but was never really in the top 3 until the very end of that race. But it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. The 197 in the Mustang gets himself on the podium for the first time this season. Justin Eloff, Luke King and Tristan Denobriga in a 4-5-6 for RDSA Esports, finishing ahead of Daniel Handover for Brabham Motorsports. Josh Benson, Lewis Kenyon and Tim Perry will round out the top 10, the second of our SimCoach and Altitude Free M Esports drivers. Hayden Miller returning back again for Phoenix Racing, this time in the blue colours in the McLaren he will finish ahead of last season's elite champion Tjek Plug down there in 12th. Adam Watson had a great race this time last week in the pre-season event. 13th is the best that he can do in this one, ahead of Thomas Pugh, Yanasol Bear and Arthur Thurtle, making his ESR debut this season as well. Luke King and Sam Derbyshire will finish in P18 after exchanging for points right toward the front of the order, and will finish Vulcan there ahead of Ignas Vinchazevskis, who qualified very, very well. In the end, though, dropped down right at the start of the race and wasn't really ever able to recover. Another Phoenix Racing Red driver, this time it's John McLuhan, who finishes inside the top 20 and should score points. He only finished 2 laps down. So long as he took the checkered flag, he will score points in P20. The rest of them, sadly, will not take home any points. Ivan Tennyson for Beta Frost in P21. It will be Harry Langford in P22 and Martin Mischek for HSR Esports, the German 198 in the Ferrari, 34 laps down, DNF'd after just the first lap this time around.
And over in the Pro class, it was quite dominant from Matt Hoyland over the course of the evening. 20 seconds was the gap in the end ahead of Ricardo Louise. David Hutchinson took home a P3. The Scotsman kind of in a race on his own. Same for Louise. All of the top 3 really didn't really see too much action over the course of the race, in direct contrast to what we saw in that elite class. Robin Milton finished just ahead of Jun Gonzalez, 4th and 5th. Be good points for them to kick off their season ahead of the lone Mustang in this class, Mikey Story, inside the top 6. Adam Wilson-Weir just about led home. John Breitenbach only about 400ths between them across the line for 7th and 8th, with James Robinson and Macaulay Watkins inside the top 10. Christopher Starsmore and James Hayworth finished inside the top 12, with Kalle Leskinen the only other driver within a minute of the race lead. Aidan Millwood, Ben Bennyworth and Joshua Nesper in the top 16, with Chris Jennings and Lewis Hunter the only other drivers listed as on the lead lap. Craig Hewlett and Joe Sparrow 19th and 20th are close enough that they should be able to pick up a couple of points for their troubles, but for Alex Retwell, for Danny Phillips in 21st and 22nd, they won't score any points no matter if they're classified or not. They finished 21st and 22nd. I think there's a couple more drivers off the bottom of this. I may be wrong. Oh, there they are. We've got Liam Fraser, Gerald Forey, Dan Cross and Nathan Healy. Nathan not really being able to get too far in this race. 35 laps down. Poor start for the season for him. But a lot of drivers, I think, who are going to get kind of a sense of where they sit in the championship after the first round show.
Yes, absolutely right then. So that concludes the race results. I was sitting there, Dara, with my finger on the button, and then the second you got to the end, I got distracted. So we'll cycle through that one. Good results, and also good to see a full page and then some of drivers in both of our classes. It's not nice for those who don't score points, but it is a little bit, it does add to the competition a little bit more when people finish the race but don't score points. Not nice for the driver, but it does show how competitive things are in this series then. So I'll jump us back to a little bit earlier on in the race, and I see that we have both of our race winners with us for this one. So I think it's only right to speak to Mr. Marius Hibmer first of all, and we can bring him into the booth very shortly, and we'll see how he feels after what was a cracking start to the championship.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic start for him, but and really punctuated by some fantastic moments throughout the race. But Marius Hibmer, first race winner of the season, joins us now. Marius, can you hear us first of all? Oh, Marius? Normally that's fine. Oh, there he is.
I can hear you.
There we go, Marius. Welcome into the booth, mate. Congratulations. First of all, I'm going to come to you and we've obviously got to start with, well, not the race finish, but the build up to the end of that race was pretty dramatic between Elof toward the start. We had Sam Derbyshire, who was taken out right toward the end of the race. But let's go back to the first portion of the race before the pit stops. We watched you live taking on, you went from 5th to 3rd and 3rd to 1st with 2 mega moves into turn 1 to eventually take the race lead. So what was going through your mind then? Had you picked up on those guys maybe being a little bit cautious on the brakes, or did it just happen once and you thought, I'll do it again, and it paid off?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a combination of both actually. The first time, I sat behind them for a few laps and I noticed they were fuel saving quite a lot. And then I was like, right, if they're going slow into turn 1, that's my best chance to overtake. And originally I was just going for the one car ahead of me. I think it was can't remember who was ahead of me, but the one car ahead of me instead of both. But then I braked late enough to take both, which was kind of unexpected. And then that worked out really well, and I caught up to Derbyshire and I think it was Elof at the front. And then I was just kind of like, it worked the first time, so I might as well do it again. And it worked again.
But I mean, that must be a huge confidence boost in itself, because no one else really seemed to be able to make that kind of move, and not just for those moves, but for the race win as well, holding off a couple of drivers right towards the end, winning by just about a tenth of a second. How well do you feel like this places you going into the next few rounds of the season?
Really well. This massive confidence boost, because going into this race, I was expecting a top 10 finish. That's kind of my aim. So to come away from it with P1 is just insane to me, and really unexpected pace. And it definitely it makes me very confident going into the next rounds that I have the pace to keep up with these guys.
Yeah, I was making a quick note about you earlier, Marius, saying how you joined the team recently and you'd been sort of toying between which car to pick in the end. I think you'll admit yourself you sort of ruled out the Acura about 2 weeks ago immediately, and then you bounced between the Ferrari, the McLaren, maybe a couple of others. Then in the end, you've gone back to the car that you'd almost written off, and it's proven the absolute right decision. So I'm sure that you're feeling pleased with the decision that you've made, and I guess that just bodes well for the rest of these rounds to come. You won't be feeling the need to change your car, and you've given yourself a lovely pedestal to work on for the rest of the season. So does that change the expectation? You said top 10 coming into tonight would have been a good result, but you've maximised the results on offer. So I guess that maybe does change the way you feel about this championship a little bit.
I mean, it certainly does, but I think the key thing is that the Acura, it's very fast at Daytona, especially compared to every other car. I mean, if you looked at the officials when it was at Daytona, everyone was in the Acura because it was just by far the fastest car. But I mean, I didn't pick the Acura because it was fast at Daytona. I picked it because it felt nice overall, and to be honest, it felt kind of sketchy at Daytona. So I definitely think it's a good car overall as well, but I think it's especially strong here at Daytona. And the reason I decided to go with it in the end was just because the reason I said I'd written it off in the beginning, because I tried it around Daytona actually, and going for the bus stop I spun every single lap because it's just that unstable at high speed. But I went back into it and I just I was able to get my head around it and deal with it, and it's proven to have worked really, really well. So I think it's a good car moving forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you might be right there. So you've obviously got quite a lot of competition around you. You'll have a target on your back now. So looking ahead to next week, we go to Brands Hatch, which will be a little bit, a completely different circuit, but more of a challenge, right? Back to the 2 30-minute rounds. So how do you feel around that circuit? Are you familiar with it? Are you looking forward to it? And of course, how do you think you'll fare against some of these elite sort of proper familiar drivers? And of course, the new ones, your Dawson, Newman, etc. Really competitive drivers. It's a pretty tricky track, Brands Hatch, isn't it?
Definitely. I'm not too experienced around Brands Hatch, to be honest. The only race I ever did was back when we did the GT4 and Touring Car League. We went to Brands Hatch. That's the only time I've ever raced at Brands Hatch, and I wasn't extremely quick, if I remember correctly. I was actually a bit off the pace compared to what I usually was. So going into Brands Hatch, I'm not too confident it'll be a good circuit for me. I think the Acura will be a good car around Brands as well, but not too confident at Brands Hatch. But yeah, I guess I'll just have to see how it's gonna go.
Good stuff, mate. Well, we'll move on and speak to our other race winner down in the Pro Class. But before we let you go, we always like to give the drivers a chance for a shout out. So if there's anyone that you'd like to mention, you can go ahead and do that now, and then we'll move on to Mr. Hoyland.
Yep, I'll give a shout out to all the league admins and also you guys for commentating these races and running such a great league. And then I'll also give a shout out to my sponsor, racinggood.com.
Very good, mate. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations. And yeah, we'll see you this time next week. Fingers crossed for another strong result.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Marius. Marius Hittner there, winner in the elite class for the opening race of the season. But he wasn't the only winner in Split A tonight. Matt Hoyland also won in the Pro class, and by quite some margin as well. And he joins us now. Matt, welcome in. Can you hear us, first of all?
I can hear you.
Good stuff, Matt. Well, welcome back. Of course, we spoke not so long ago after your prior success around Monza, and you've picked up exactly where you left off. An absolute dominant performance. Now, I don't know if you saw what was going on in the elite class, but the top 5 were just exchanging positions for fun. You, however, had a slightly different approach, and you won by an absolute monumental margin. Oh, qualifying, first of all, we'll start there actually. 1/1000th of a second. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I've never hugged the that yellow line around Daytona quite as much as I did. I knew it was going to be close because I could see coming out of the bus stop, the delta was, I think I would have been slightly down comparing to my previous lap. So I literally was riding as close to, if not on that yellow line as I could. Obviously I don't even know what the ruling is about running the apron on the run to the line. I don't know if that's allowed, but I didn't anyway. But yeah, just mental, especially to take it by 1,000th. I mean, I think I ended up starting slightly behind him on the start anyway, just because of how the columns lined up. But yeah, just it's nice to know that you've got the pace before you go into the race, rather than having to find it. Obviously, when you got a lot of cars around you. So yeah, definitely a big confidence boost.
And I mean, for you, not just in qualifying, but in that race as well, you were kind of able to attach yourself to the back of that big train of elite cars. And even if you weren't necessarily fighting for position, keeping yourself very relevant in that battle, and just sitting to the back, watching and waiting. How satisfying was it for you to just almost feel like you were kind of still in a bit of a race, but see that gap behind you in terms of your class just grow and grow and grow?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit deceiving because the winning margin was comfortable in the end, but I don't think the pace that I had over anyone like the front 5 in pro was that different. It's just that sheer advantage because the cars in front of me were that bit quicker. I was getting the advantage of the toe, which might be 3 or 4 tenths a lap, without being held up. So it just allowed me to keep going. But there was also in my mind, I knew if I did lose it at any point, it's so easy to get drawn back in. So I was still working quite hard, to be honest, just to make sure that I did stay with them. But I was also quite concerned that they were getting quite fast with each other at times, and I'm thinking, please don't cause something like huge in front of me here. But thankfully they didn't. And then after the stops, it was just myself and Mr. Plug running around. But again, he was that bit quicker than me that I could keep towing without getting held up. So yeah, it worked out really well in the end.
And one last thing, Matt, a quick word on the livery. So I want you to just talk us through it. Who designed it? Who made it? And I guess, is it just the same sort of graphic repeated around the car? Because it might be the most complicated livery that we've ever had on our grid.
That's the work of Mr. Stitchbury. Now, I don't really know what his inspiration was because he wouldn't show us it until it was almost time to race it. So there was only himself that had actually seen it. As far as I'm aware, it is the same ones repeated. How many times? I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I've looked at it in detail maybe once and tried to count how many different ones there was, but got bored extremely quickly. So yeah, it's different. It's nice. I like it. It's not something that I think I've ever actually seen running ESR before. Yeah. So
no,
it's nice to have something that stands out. I've usually got quite dark liveries, so it makes a change for me.
Yeah, and just one last quick one before we jump to the shout-outs, of course. So we were saying it's the first time that I think we've ran a 1-hour race to start the campaign. So cracking start for you, 100 points on the table. Does that change things for you, knowing, yes, your rivals who finished in behind will also have a good number of points, but there could be 1 or 2 champion competitors who've not had the best night of it and are already, the best part of 100 points behind you. So a pretty complicated circuit next week around Brands Hatch. That could really throw a spanner in the works for some people. But that 100 points must be a nice margin to start this campaign with.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely nice to obviously come out and win straight off the bat. Again, mentally is a really big thing. Obviously, we're all aware by now that none of the rounds are more important than any of the others. Anything can happen. I am also missing next week, so that straight away takes away any bonus side. Hopefully that'll be my drop round come end of the season. But I'm off to watch F1 cars. So yeah, I don't know. But obviously, having to miss around, I couldn't have done any more this week. So 2 weeks time, hopefully I'll be able to get back on it, pick up where I left off, or at least be there or thereabouts.
I'm glad you mentioned that, mate. We'll have to grab a pint because I'm there as well. So give us a bell,
very nice.
and we'll have a little get together. So that'll be good. Cracking, mate. Well, you enjoy that, and we'll catch you back here for the third round. Congratulations, as always. Quick shout out, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, just shout out to everyone in our teams this season. Again, well, I think there were some calamities for some of our drivers. I know Danny Phillips and Joe Sparrow had a bit of an incident on the tri-oval, as far as I heard. Shout out to the guys the other split as well, and obviously to you guys. As always, your streams are always amazing, so I'll be sure to watch this one back and see all the chaos that went on at the front I couldn't see.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Yeah, it was very, very action-packed. I'm sure you'll enjoy watching this one back. Thank you very much. We're going to go and speak to Mr. Howarth quickly, and then we'll wrap up. So good stuff, Matt. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Speak to you later.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Matt. And Matt Holden, the winner, of course, in that Pro Class. Really, really impressive drive. And we'll just about be able to get a quick word from James Hayworth as well. Hello, James. I'm sorry, I've dragged you in clearly in an opportune moment. Clearly wasn't you can hear us, right?
Yeah. That's just my livery. Not livery, sorry, my intro on Discord.
Oh, very good. Well, good stuff, James. Welcome back to the booth. It's been a little while since we've spoken to you. You'll have to forgive me because I'm not entirely sure where you finished in that one. But talk us through it, of course, in the... Am I seeing the Lamborghini there? Yes, I am. So, is that a car you've driven before? I think not, right?
No, I normally main the Stang, but obviously with the new tyre update and aerodynamic module, I'm not best of friends with it. So... I've gone for something more stable, and obviously with the wet races as well. I believe the Lambo's going to be more stable for me. And so far, the Lambo's doing a good job so far.
Yeah, so you're in a new team, of course. I'm not even gonna. Is it Quaymar? You tell me.
Kmar,
yeah. So the new lineup, Danny Phillips has joined the team. Sparrow is back with you, and then Ben is at Wenman down there in the Evo class. So 3 of you in the Pro class. How did that get on between the team tonight? Were you coordinating well, or were you quite far away from one another on the circuit?
The beginning of the race, obviously Danny had a little incident with the turn 1 tyre barrier, trying to underpass me. Then obviously with him being lapped, we coordinated going through a bus stop really well. He just pulled over to the left and left me carrying on. And Joe unfortunately got in a few incidences, and I think Danny did as well. But I kept my race clean. A little bit slow at times, but managed to pick up some places.
Yeah, I think it's a nice place to come. Not the most complicated circuit, and of course, just with it being a 1 hour, just lets everyone sort of bed in nicely without that sort of frantic start with race 2. So a nice handful of points again. I think, where did you finish? Do you remember, like somewhere around maybe top 10 or so?
P12 in class.
Yeah.
I would have got P11, but Christopher Starmore's just nipped me at the line.
Well, there we go. So it's a good handful of points for yourself and for the team to start the championship. So do you have many ambitions, of course, with it being a fairly new team? I know Joe has been in the fray for a while with DXT, but I don't remember the last time he raced directly for your team, right? Normally it's JSD, maybe some sort of mixture. And then, of course, Barry and Danny Phillips, of course, not Danny Weir, are also fairly new, right? So it's a pretty new lineup that you've got this season.
Yeah, new lineup, and it's a new split for me because obviously I've just come up from B split, so I've got to up my game, so to speak, more practice hours. So I'm not really heading towards like a top end finish because I know this is an alien split. So I'm just hoping to just pick as much points as I can and hopefully finish in the top half of the Premier.
No, that would be good, mate. I mean, a couple of others have come with you as well. It's always good to see people progressing through the ranks. So good luck to you. Fingers crossed that preparation pays off. And you know, sometimes when you've got that pressure to perform and maybe be in a slightly higher category than what you're used to, it does bring the best out of you. So fingers crossed you get that one right then. So looking ahead to next week, Brands Hatch in the Lambo. I don't think that combination is all too common. So are you looking forward to that one? It's completely different to what we've had tonight.
I am actually. I know it's a very hard track to overtake and pick your points. I've done a few races in it in the fixed setup, and I feel more confident than I have in Daytona. But I just need to try and tweak a little setup to get me just in the 21s, because I'm just on the outside of it.
Good stuff, mate. Well, thanks for joining us, of course. Good luck with your preparation. Before we let you go, we'll give you a quick chance to give a shout out, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
Yeah, for yourselves as well, for a great stream, and obviously with the new season. The DXT group, obviously, we all have a laugh and a banter. A new team that's come up is iRacing. Just give them a little shout out. And lastly, my girlfriend Laura.
Yes, very good stuff. She's always with us in the chat, which is always nice to see. So congratulations, mate. Enjoy that one, and yeah, good luck with your preparation. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, boys.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you.
Great to get a word from him after the opening round of the season, and a perspective, I think, just a little bit further back from the real sharp end tonight, even though there was quite a few drivers who weren't involved in that leading battle, but it is always good to get a word from drivers up and down the grid. But I think it's fair to say it's been a pretty successful evening to start the season, Joe.
It absolutely has, mate. It's been much more entertaining than I thought it might do, actually. I didn't think we'd have such a frantic change of order toward the front of the field, of course. And it's also good to see the likes of Marius, who, as he said, he didn't really think that he would be in that sort of competitive position. Turns out he was. And he, like I said in the interview, he's put a bit of a target on his back for the likes of Newman, Dawson, Eloff, Obliga, and Derbyshire, of course. That doesn't even count the likes of Vinchesevskis and Plurg, who didn't have the best night of it, but we know definitely have the pace in the long run of a championship season then. So very, very good start. I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be here for the next couple of weeks. I will be watching on from abroad while things kick off. As we said there, I'll be watching, well, probably won't be able to watch at Silverstone next week because the signal is notoriously terrible, and I'll probably be listening to some music somewhere, I would imagine. But the following week, I'll tune in for sure and see how you get on with Mr. Draycott for the first time. So looking forward to that one, and of course looking forward to being back in the seat as we reach the halfway point in the season then. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up for the first time this season. Let's take a look at what we've got in the offing for the next couple of weeks and months, in fact, across our various series. So GT3 Split A and Split B, Thursday evenings at 8 PM start, will be between myself and Dara, now Chaz and Dara, and then of course Mr. Paul Walsh down there in Split B. The European GT Championship, 8 o'clock on Sunday, gets underway for its final 3 rounds. Portimao, then Spa, and then Silverstone to round out the season. You can join Mr. Bostock and Mr. Thacker in that one Sunday, same place, same time, 8 PM start. Following the conclusion of that, we'll swap from Europe over to the Americas, GTE and GT3 machines, pairing up for the first time on an Evolution Sim Racing grid. Sunday evening, same time as well. Information on that one can be found in the server, discord.gg/ESR, using the QR code on screen now. The Danny Lee Porsche Cup is also coming toward a close as well on alternate Sundays. Be sure to catch up with that over on the Apex Racing YouTube channel. And then, of course, the Practice League, open to everyone. If anyone wants to join, you can join the server, as said, with the information on screen. Every Tuesday evening and Saturday afternoon, we'll drive a variety of circuits from different competitions week in, week out, so you guys can come and pick and choose the ones that you want to take part in. Open to all, and it's the best way for you to get on our grids. A few seats left in the American GT Challenge, but aside from that, all of the series are either underway or sold out completely then. So thanks to everyone who watched, of course. Thanks for those who are still with us, and thanks for everyone for participating in the chat. And of course, thanks to you, Dara. I'm sure we will reconnect at some point in the commentary box, perhaps in an upcoming series in the future. But for now, that's going to be me and you taking a little break. So good luck with Chaz next week. I'm sure you two will get on, and he brings the banter probably a little bit more than I do. So you'll have to get used to that one.
Yeah, I can't imagine it'll be too long before we're back doing a series together at some point, but it is going to feel weird not hearing your voice. I was going to say seeing you, but then again, I don't see
We
you.
don't.
Hearing your voice. Almost. I mean, it was twice a week for quite some time at one point. It's going to feel weird
was.
now.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking on you when you get back in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll be sure to make that entertaining for everyone. I won't be doing anything too crazy, but I will be trying. Got myself a new set of brake pedals, actually. New set of pedals for the first time ever, really, since I bought a mid-ranged sim. I've just upgraded them for the first time in 4 years, so fingers crossed, once I get used to them, I might find a little bit more pace. So hopefully you're watching me in a good point scoring position, but that we'll have to wait and see. Still a good month or so before I'll be back in the seat in this series. But as I said, thanks for everyone for watching, and you can join Mr. Chaz and Mr. Dara this time next week for round 2 at Brands Hatch. Thanks everyone, and enjoy the weekend.